episode 336 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 2nd of June 2025. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Only 23 more sleeps till I run for my life.
Graham.
Good evening.
And Will.
Hello.
What on earth are you talking about, Phelim?
Iron Maiden,
Oh,
25th.
right.
Can't wait. It's on the north side, so they don't even realise the irony of running for your life on the north side of Dublin.
He's such an old man and such a snob.
Yes.
Anyway, it's been quite a long time since we've actually done this. Thanks to the magic of recording ahead, no one has noticed that, but we've not actually spoken to each other for like 5 weeks or something. So it's great to have you all back.
Nice to be here.
It's been a nice break, but it's good to see you all again.
Right, let's do some news then. Mozilla is shutting down Pocket and Fakespot, and they never got round to open sourcing Pocket. What a shame.
You know that Jeremy Clarkson gif? Oh no! Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, people were outraged about this, but isn't this kind of what we want them to do? Focus on the actual browser?
Yeah, we want them to focus on the browser. I don't know whether we're getting that now, in all fairness. We're getting the first bit, but are we getting the second bit?
It is, and also, what the fuck was that all about? What were they doing? And because I've, thanks to this podcast, switched to a Wallabag, I read that Wallabag was actually having real issues in terms of scaling with this news being dropped on them and basically so many people switching from Pocket to Wallabag. Would have been nice to coordinate a little bit.
How do you find it?
I find it great. I think it's a really good drop-in replacement. I think I talked about it in the past, but I've moved to Wallabag and never looked back. I self-host it, but they also provide a kind of paid service, which is probably easier for most people. But you got plugins in my browsers. I have it like on my share link for things, and I'm still adding things to that, even though I'm no longer doing FOSPICs.
It's where your tabs go to die.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So have you got it on mobile as well then?
Yeah, I have. I've got the mobile app, which is linked to my own instance. And I use it all the time. I could have a look, but I've got thousands of things in there. And I do find it really useful for things like our discoveries.
Why would I use that instead of just syncing my bookmarks across devices?
Well, it's very similar. It does cache the articles so that you can read them in the app. You can kind of read most of it. You can also tag them, and you can kind of algorithmically tag them. If you've used like an e-reader, you can get them sent to your e-reader. So you can do clever things like that with the text. I think the categorization thing is the most important. Like if something happens to mention synth, for example, then I could put a synth category on it or a news category on it, and being able to read the articles in one place.
So if they'd built this feature into Firefox bookmarks from the beginning instead of spinning it out as a separate product, do you think you would have just stuck with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think they bought Pocket. So it came to them from one of their, billion-dollar investment synergizing initiatives.
Yeah, I was using Pocket before they bought it. And then I just happened to have stopped using it just before they bought it. And it's still sitting there. The button's still, I'm looking at it right now. The button is just up there, completely useless.
So yeah, I think I do feel a need for this kind of functionality, yes. I try to close down my millions of tabs, and if I don't want to lose something, I at least put it into the black hole of Wallabag so I know it's somewhere.
I was looking at the pricing of Wallabag just out of pure curiosity, and it's reasonable enough. There's even an option there for €4 for 3 months. But it says underneath, thanks to the 3-month subscription, you can leave us sooner and get your freedom again. What the fuck does that mean?
That sounds like a dodgy translation.
Yeah, it does a bit. It's a bit weird. Oh, they're all for 3 months, are they? Okay, so this is the guilt you into paying the 11 for 3 months then. Even that is pretty decent.
And it's, it's open source.
Even if you do host it yourself, you can always donate something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says €11 a year, which seems pretty reasonable to me. And so it was the paid service that started creaking then, once Mozilla announced this.
Yeah, that's right. I should make it clear it's the paid service that's creaking, but also I think the downloads for the binaries and people installing it themselves.
Oh, right. But you weren't affected because you had it all up and running anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's running on my outer server.
Ah, right.
What was that? Sorry, you trailed off there for a second. Did you say Mandrake? Was it Mandrake?
There's me thinking you had it on your Wise 5070.
No, it's not local.
No, it hasn't got the drivers for that yet, Joe.
Okay, I haven't said anything at all. I've realized that you can run things in containers on really old operating systems and never worry about updating the operating system. It's amazing.
Great strategy.
Is the container the actual server it sits in?
Gradually, yes.
Well, another thing that has happened since we last recorded is Firefox source code is now on GitHub. What do we think about this?
Just in time for the AI bots. Brilliant work, guys. Of course they picked now to do it.
I mean, I saw people wildly speculating that they're trying to cozy up to Microsoft in order to get a Bing deal. But that just seems a bit ridiculous to me.
I think there are better ways to cozy up to Microsoft. I think this is likely to be, well, if it was me making the decisions, it would likely be to attract other developers. Having your own mercurial repo stuck away in a dusty corner of the internet is quite 1997. I think GitHub is sadly, well, not sadly, actually, it's a fine service. GitHub is where the developers are and where software is hosted and where people go to look for issues and search for docs. So I think it's a sensible place to meet your developers and expand your community. I think it's a smart move.
Will's views do not represent 100% of the people on this show.
Yeah, network effect and all that. As much as I don't like that GitHub is the de facto place to host code, the fact is it is that. And so if you're not there, it's like YouTube. If you're not on YouTube as a video creator, then what's the point?
It's like a mass spreaders for a virus, isn't it? It's a big COVID get-together.
Well, I saw a post on Mastodon by Elena Saeta that linked to Mozilla's response to a pwn-to-own thing where someone had found a security issue and Mozilla had fixed it really quickly. And Elena says, "When I say that I can't recommend third-party forks of either Firefox or Chrome for real-world use, this kind of thing is why. This is the bar for what a security team for a browser needs to be able to do. A fork where the entire technical team is 10 people that can't even keep up with the upstream patches is sadly not in the running." And yeah, I completely agree. All these downstream versions of Firefox forks, or whatever you want to call it, do not have the security team that it takes to do stuff like this, to fix stuff quickly and push those fixes out. And so it is just incredibly important that Mozilla survives, I think.
I think we all agree. Yes, it is so important, which is why we hold them to such high standards.
Yeah, exactly.
We've sort of covered this before, but if I had to trust a security team, then the Mozilla security team are a good bunch of people to trust. I genuinely believe they have got the end user's interests at heart and they are going out of their way to protect them. I think it's a smart move.
I think it's always been the management that's been the problem with Mozilla, unfortunately. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Well, it's like a lot of open source organizations. The people working for them are really good people who are there writing open source code or, contributing to open source and doing the best that they possibly can. Meanwhile, the management is, not perhaps the best that it could be. But we often talk about how there's only 3 browser engines, which are Blink, WebKit, and Gecko, and how the death of Mozilla is going to be basically the death of one of the major browser engines, which is terrible. But Servo is actually slowly improving. And we've got an article here from Phoronix. Servo browser engine, now rendering Gmail and Google Chat, decides against AI contributions. So that all sounds quite promising, doesn't it?
I'm going to say yes. We've talked about how complicated browsers are, and I don't really understand. I hope they don't have to be that complicated. I hope that it would be possible. I'm probably ridiculously naive in this, that a smaller team could create a browser with a lower kind of security surface area to protect one that broadly functions the same as a normal browser. I'd like one, so I hope it's a good thing.
Well, I don't think that Servo is a hope in of itself as it is now for anything other than a hobby project. But if Mozilla does go away, then maybe as a base to build a Phoenix from the flames. I suppose it would probably make more sense to just carry on with Gecko, but maybe taking some of the ideas that Servo are doing, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they could just say, right, anything that's past any web dev technology from 2020 and backwards, just bin that and then just go on forward from there. I know that's obviously Stuart language is clearly burst into flames right now, but honestly, I mean, how much cruft can we continue with? Because it is a unsustainable, unless you're $1 trillion company, sort of way of carrying on. Almost like they might do that on purpose, one would say, but maybe that's just being conspiratorial.
I think that is being conspiratorial. I think that software bloat, essentially, is what you're talking about, is just inherent within the industry. Like, you always want to add more features, don't you?
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't take away old ones, though. Whereas if you release a 1.0 compliant website now, it has to render that correctly, even though maybe they should go, no, there's a 2020 cutoff. Get it out of here. Like,
well, I think we all wish that pretty much everything after 2020 hadn't happened, eh? Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Everyone these days has a VPN as a sponsor, but Tailscale isn't like those. This isn't about hiding your browsing habits from coffee shop owners, and it's not about watching Netflix in another country. Tailscale is a proper VPN for connecting your devices securely. It's great for companies, and it's great for self-hosters. Loads of the Late Night Linux family hosts use Tailscale because it gives you the power of WireGuard with a simple and quick setup. I got it up and running in a few minutes without having to open any ports. Tailscale lets you connect anything, anywhere. Provide connectivity to any resource for your organization, from dashboards to a Synology NAS or Windows file server, from self-managed DNS servers to software as a service applications. If you want it off the public internet, Tailscale will provide secure access. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, and you get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free with no credit card required. So support the show and go to tailscale.com/LNL and try Tailscale out at home or at work today. That's tailscale.com/LNL. SteamOS is available for machines other than just the Steam Deck now, which is pretty cool.
I think this is really interesting. I wonder if Valve are preparing themselves to go on to a desktop OS for people who want to get rid of, or rather don't want to go to Windows 11 and still play all their games. I think they've got a real opportunity if they do want to do that. But in the meantime, everybody who's bought their other hardware should be very, very pleased.
Well, so far, the only officially supported device is the Lenovo Legion Go S. But in the SteamOS 3.7.8 release notes, they do say improved support for other AMD-powered handhelds, in brackets, like the ROG Ally and the original Legion Go.
Also, I think I saw in the latest beta release, if you subscribe to the beta channels, that they fixed like some controller issues with the ROG Ally that you even get in Windows. So they're basically doing their job for them. So they really are committed to this, and it's fascinating and also really good.
I'm not convinced about what you said, Will. I don't think that they are trying to push for desktops necessarily. I think that it's more a case of they kind of created this handheld market with the Steam Deck. Bigger companies came along with more powerful hardware, and they just want people using Steam and buying games.
Yeah, I think it's like, even though it's, a relative failure at the moment, Steam VR, the platform that they created for virtual reality on Steam, which they're still investing a lot into, and I still have hopes for the Decade.
Yeah, Decade any day now. Yeah.
But they did it in a way that would invite other manufacturers to get involved, and quite a few of them have. And I think they're doing the same thing with SteamOS. They're doing it in a way that doesn't preclude other people from joining, in the hopes that it becomes a movement, in the hopes that portable PC gaming, the OS is SteamOS.
Well, I always say, look at the business model. What is the business model of Valve? It is sell games to people. Whether that's some games they've made or the vast majority of them are games that other people have made, and they're just kind of the middleman for that. I don't think they have a particular interest in becoming a hardware company. It feels like the Steam Deck was a means to an end to me. And that's why they're not interested in doing a new rev of it. They did the OLED version, which is better and everything, but they're not going to do the Steam Deck 2 anytime soon because they just want people playing games.
They've always said this, that they're not super into hardware, yet they spend quite a lot of time doing hardware. I mean, they did partner with HTC for their headset, and then they launched the Index, and they're probably going to do the Decade. And the amount of they have their controllers. And so while they do say it about hardware, I still think they have a bit of a thing for it. And I don't think it'll be too long until there's a Steam Deck 2.0.
Today we had the joy of Liam's one of his base stations blowing up, so I'm going to have to sticks my way out of fixing that, because I looked at the price of them replacement, and CX it's €70, but there's none to be had, and it's €150 from Steam for like a base station.
I got mine on eBay, if that helps.
No, it doesn't help at all.
You're probably better off paying for a flight over to the UK and buying one here.
Well, I looked up CX in the UK, doesn't have any either.
What about eBay in the UK?
Oh, eBay in the UK. Oh, I don't know. Is it going to last though? I'm gonna take it apart. There's no loss here. I'm only going to go blind when the laser turns on and zaps me retinas, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Also, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing, but I feel I've watched enough Big Clive and Steve fixes things, so yeah, we'll see. What are the bets? As soon as I buy the new one after 3 months of this faffing about, fucking Deckard comes out and that's what he wants.
NextCloud managed to pressure Google into sorting out the permissions for their Android app. So they had a battle with Google for about a year over the NextCloud app on Android being able to upload files that weren't media files, because Google were saying, it was a security thing, even though Google Drive doesn't have an issue with that. So then NextCloud published a blog post about it, and then very quickly it was fixed. What are the odds of that happening, eh?
I'm glad they did get it fixed, but yeah, it just shows you if you don't have the clout, you're stuffed, and when they own the shop, you're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. And NextCloud kind of got a bit conspiratorial, I thought, saying that it's them being big tech and all the rest of it. I feel like it was probably more a case of they just brought in these blanket rules that they didn't want various software having access to all files and stuff like that, and just didn't give a shit about them until they kicked up a stink about it.
Why not both?
I mean, how can I put this kindly? NextCloud is not a threat to Google.
Not at the moment. Might be.
Does this mean that on whatever weird OS Phelim runs on his phone, that it wasn't a problem?
How dare you? There's nothing weird about it.
So your phone just allows any old files to be accessed by any old apps then?
Well, it's a permissions-based system, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the app requests the permissions and you grant them or not.
Okay.
And in this case, if you downloaded it from the Play Store, it could not request the permissions beyond the media files, is my understanding.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Whereas if you got the same open source app from F-Droid, even on a completely stock Pixel like mine, then it was fine. You can then give it permissions to access whatever it wants. And so you don't have to be weird Phelim. You could be a normal person who uses F-Droid.
Oh, just because there's loads of them.
But normal people don't use F-Droid, do they? They get stuff from the Play Store. And so that's what this was about.
Mm.
But I'm not having it that it's them just being big tech and neutralizing the competition, because NextCloud is not the competition.
I think you're right. NextCloud isn't the competition, but Microsoft OneDrive or whatever else is out there perhaps is the competition. And presumably they got stuck with these same rules being applied to their applications. So perhaps this was a little bit planned, if you like.
Well, it did say in the original blog post, we suppose Google can't get away with this versus Apple or Microsoft, as those companies would retaliate. So it sounds like probably not.
It sounds more to me like the banality of a huge company making decisions that makes its own life easier and not giving a shit about anybody else.
Exactly. It's just them not caring. It's like when they break websites in Firefox because they don't test in Firefox, their own services. Like for ages, Google Maps would just crash randomly in Firefox. And that wasn't them going, haha, we're going to force people to use Chrome. It was them not saying anything because they just don't give a shit about Firefox. They only tested it in Chrome and just so be it.
Who's that remind me of?
I don't know.
1990s Microsoft, that's who.
Well, in this original blog post by NextCloud, they bring up Microsoft as well. where they say Microsoft, which blocked certain capabilities from Windows to ensure WordPerfect users had a worse experience than people who picked Microsoft Word. I don't know about that, Like I say, they just don't care. And maybe them not caring is sort of tantamount to what they're being accused of, both Microsoft and Google here. But I just don't think that it is some sinister plan. It's just them not giving a shit. Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. If you're a security or IT professional, you've got a mountain of assets to protect. Devices, identities, and applications which can add up to a mountain of security risks. Fortunately, you can conquer that mountain with 1Password Extended Access Management. Over half of IT pros say securing SaaS apps is their biggest challenge. Thankfully, Trellica by 1Password can discover and secure access to all your apps, managed or not. Trellica by 1Password inventories every app in use at your company. Then pre-populated app profiles assess SaaS risks, letting you manage access, optimize spend, and enforce security best practices across every app your employees use. Manage shadow IT, securely onboard and offboard employees, and meet compliance goals. Trellica by 1Password provides a complete solution for SaaS access governance, and it's just one of the ways that Extended Access Management helps teams strengthen compliance and security. 1Password's award-winning password manager is trusted by millions of users and over 150,000 businesses, from IBM to Slack. And now they're securing more than just passwords with 1Password Extended Access Management. Plus, 1Password is ISO 27001 certified. With regular third-party audits, 1Password exceeds the standards set by various authorities and is a leader in security. Take the first step to better security for your team by securing credentials and protecting every application, even unmanaged shadow IT. Learn more at onepassword.com/late-night-linux. That's onepassword.com/late-night-linux, all lowercase. Windows subsystem for Linux is now open source, mostly. This is a turn up for the books.
Is it? Who cares?
Ah, here we go.
Unless you happen to have a version of Windows that you've been secretly keeping in a cupboard and you needed to have Linux on it too, then maybe this could be also useful for your project. Essentially, ReactOS. ReactOS is sorted. Now they can be a Linux system pretending to be Windows, which can now run WSL.
I thought it was cute that they linked to bug number 1 on their WSL repository, which was, will this be open source? And that was April the 6th, 2016.
Wow.
So it just goes to show you. And then it made me think, of course, of a Mark Shuttleworth's bug number 1.
Yeah.
Will Microsoft help with that one?
That was the thing that surprised me the most, was that next year, WSL will be 10 years old. It still feels like it's a relatively new technology that people are still getting to grips with. I don't know if that's because I'm ignorant of the use cases and what people are actually doing with it in the real world, or if it's not really been as successful as we feared it would be. I don't think it's really moved the needle significantly either way. Like, I think the needle is very firmly exactly where it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's led to more people using proper Linux than before. But I did hear a rumor once, and I have no data to back this up, but that more people use WSL than all of desktop Linux combined. All the distros. And that really wouldn't surprise me if that was true.
Yeah, I heard something similar. It wouldn't surprise me if it was true either. But nor have we seen desktop Linux die a death, right? We look at the Steam numbers, for example, and it's still on the up.
Yeah, but you see these projects that are sort of command line utilities or whatever, or Python stuff, that sort of thing. And in the README, it'll be these are the instructions for Linux, these are the instructions for Mac, and these are the instructions for Windows. And more often than not, the Windows instructions start with use WSL. And I think that's where it's really succeeded.
Well, I think that actually shows where Linux has succeeded. I mean, it forced Microsoft to do this to stop people getting a Mac. Like, that's probably realistically where this goes, isn't it? It was to stop the hemorrhaging of people going, well, I'm not going to fucking install a LAMP stack on Windows with a crazy exe. I remember there was one project that used to do that. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like, php.exes and, just awful stuff. Like, you want your test environment to be as close to production as possible, or, ideally the same, but if you have a Windows machine and you're looking at this prior to WSL, yeah, you weren't. You had to use a VM, and you probably would have ended up getting a Mac anyway or something like that. So this is going to stop all that. And I'd love to see, I'm sure Tim Cook will just pop me over the numbers there to see how it impacted their sales. You know, was there a steadily growing line that then plateaued as soon as WSL came in? I don't know.
Yeah, but then the M series Macs came out, the Apple Silicon, and that presumably sold them a shitload.
Oh, sure, yeah, but if you're in a corporate environment that runs AD and you're trying to use a Mac on it, yeah, you're not. I mean, they can, but yeah, I don't think so.
Well, what about this then? Edit is now open source. Can you believe this concept from Microsoft, right? It's a text editor, right?
Yeah.
But it runs in the terminal.
I don't understand. How would that happen? Surely that's not possible. Where's the file menu?
Well, don't worry, it has a file menu and stuff.
Oh, right, yeah, so it does actually. I didn't notice that. Oh, and you can use a mouse? What kind of terminal is this? Fuck off. Where's the edit mode and the command mode? Or what meta key do I have to use to fucking engage that? Oh, fucking hell. Of all the things that we needed, another fucking text editor. Why didn't they tell us to install Nano in WSL? That's what I want to fucking know.
Look, I think this looks cool.
It does not.
I don't care what you say. This looks cool. Someone back me up, please.
No, because it says carriage return line feed in the hello world. Anybody who has that at the end of a text file is just wrong.
I don't know. I mean, there are lots of new text editors for Linux. There are lots of new open source text editors. I used to find one like every couple of months for FOSPIX, and they had more to them than this. So I really don't get it. But sure.
And look at the fonts. They look ugly.
If that's what they want to do, if this is the thing, okay.
if this is the best that your trillions can bring you.
They have like documentation where it says, what's Edit's features? Edit is still in the early stages, but has several features out of the box. Here are some highlights. It's lightweight. Like, yeah, no shit, it doesn't do anything. It's less than 250K.
Fuck's sake.
How big's Nano?
273K.
Ooh. Is there not like a nano lib somewhere that is like several meg?
Ooh, yeah, you might be right, actually. That's a fair point.
So this genuinely might be quite lean then.
On the fattest operating system ever. It can now use all that extra horsepower to serve you even more ads in your start menu. Probably ads for it, even though you have it fucking installed.
Did you see the backlash to Copilot generated issues and pull requests on GitHub?
I had to get oxygen. I was laughing so much.
We'll link to a discussion. Allow us to block Copilot generated issues and pull requests from our own repositories, which is unanswered, despite having 1,300 thumbs up and various other reactions, 500 hearts, and loads of other stuff. It was so funny to see this Copilot AI bullshit unleashed on Microsoft repositories and all these people who work for Microsoft frantically trying to like reason with this AI because they can't just say fuck off because they work for Microsoft. And just some of the shit that it was doing was unbelievable. Like one of them I saw, it was about like the version numbers on the various operating systems. And the fix was like, if it's more than this version number, then we'll assume that it is Windows rather than iOS. And the Microsoft employee replies to it, well, what about when the iOS version gets above that number? Like, that's going to break. Like, what are you talking about? It really was quite something to see.
I genuinely don't understand why anybody would want to talk to their computer. Like, I have to talk to my dog and family and friends.
Children.
That's hard enough. I want my computer to do the fucking thing I've just told you to fucking do. Do it now and do it really quickly. As long as I haven't typoed it, which I probably have, in which case I'll redo it, but at least it'll fucking do it. Not, oh, please, would you just please organize that directory? Would you? Oh, absolutely. And then I have to frame it as if I'm a 18th century child in order to do it in a fast and oppressive Victorian manner or something. Like, what the fuck?
I still find it preferable to Google searching stuff these days. This weekend, I was looking at a T-shirt print-on-demand service, which has an API, which I wanted to incorporate into a website that I manage for a local club who want to sell T-shirts with their logo on them. And what I couldn't work out is, do you need to set up a business account and then grant people access to the API and so on and so on? Or do you just have one account and it takes care of everything? I tried to Google it and I got absolute gibberish back, and none of the results actually had an answer. All it was trying to do was sell me other print-on-demand services. When I went into ChatGPT and asked the same question, I got exactly the answer I hoped for, and turns out it was correct as well, which is,
was it,
I admit, lucky. Yeah, it was, yeah. Lucky, and currently not full of adverts, but it is only a matter of time, I admit. But the sort of technical, detail-orientated question that you want to ask that is in docs somewhere, but you can't really search for it with a keyword, and you can't ask Google because it's just dog shit these days. That is where AI and chatting with a document really comes into its own. I do think there is a place for it.
At what cost, Will? At what cost?
At what cost?
Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it might be more news. Who knows what it'll be. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelan.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.